wanted to own it, just wanted to take the time, learn all the things that I could about you. Now it's such a mess here, oh, we are just stressed here. Used to be so easy with you.
Thank you for coming on the show today.
Thank you for having me.
I've been wanting you for a long time. So tell us what you have been doing. So when I met you like a few years ago, you had your booth set up, Breaking the Change. How long has that been around?
10 years.
10 years.
We're actually going into our 11th year right now.
Oh, so you had the big anniversary last year, the 10 years and whatever.
Yeah.
That's really cool. And then you always started in the Fresno Clovis area. It's always Central Valley.
Yes.
Okay, so tell our viewers who don't know about it a little bit. I know you get tired of recapping all the time, but tell us the recap.
Yeah, no, so Breaking the Chains, we are the direct service provider that works directly with law enforcement to provide all of the housing support, comprehensive care, trauma counseling, emergency services to all victims impacted by human trafficking, and with a specific focus on youth ages 12 to 25.
And I think when people find interesting to believe that you have personal history with this, I think people don't expect that too. And you look very like, you know, a normal mom like here in Central Valley. And that's what I think been really overwhelming to a lot of us to realize how close to home it is and how big. And I know you spread awareness on that. So tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I mean, I think, I'm you know, older now, right? My actual trafficking experience was almost 25 years ago, so it was 1999. So
Wow.
I actually just hit my 25 years. And so it's a lot different, and I think it just really reflects what we're seeing right now. So just to kind of back up, it's really important to understand that what was known as the sex trade, prostitution, you know, whatever term you want to associate with it, made a very sinister turn in the mid-90s, because what happened was the war on drugs, the war on guns, which has been amazing, it caused a pivot, because criminal organizations, they really do operate like a business. It's about profit and loss, risk and benefit. And so in this pivot, gangs basically realized you can sell a bag of drugs at high risk one time, but you can sell an individual over and over and over again with little to no risk. You see, in the late 90s, or prior to about 2008, there were really no laws on the books to protect those who people didn't even realize were being victimized by these criminal organizations. Long story short for me is my mother had been involved in the sex trade since the late 60s. So it's something, unfortunately, that has very much generationally impacted my family. I come from Southwest Fresno, an area that is high crime, high poverty. I was born addicted to drugs because of my mother's ongoing narcotic use. And so this was something that was always kind of floating all around me. And in my late teens, essentially, I was taken by a very dangerous and sadistic gang member because of a drug debt that was owed by my mother. I was taken down to Los Angeles and trafficked very violently for several months. I don't talk about, we have like the Puff Daddy just coincidentally that's going on. I have a book that's out, so bestseller in the UK, right? Read it.
Okay, what's the book called?
A Cry of the Heart. So go on, just put in my name, Debra Rush, A Cry of the Heart, the search engine, it'll pop right up. But and I leave the record crew alone because they were not essentially my traffickers, but it goes to show that we were seeing the switch in hip hop specifically. Right?
So hip hop was responsible for a lot of what was going on.
Oh yeah, even with what happened to me, it was a West Coast group, record label. Yeah, absolutely it was. Absolutely it was. And so anyways, so I went down there following this record label and ended up in, like I said, a very sadistic and very just terrifying situation. Several months later, largely in part thanks to my family that didn't give up and trying to reach out and find me, and a Fresno police officer, I was able to find my way out. But unfortunately at that time, and again, this is 1999, there were no systems in place to even expose human trafficking. Nobody was providing any critical care services. And I started suffering from what we now know as complex compound PTSD. This is the level of PTSD that we most often see with our frontline combat vets, most specifically Vietnam, Iraqi, Desert Storm, those type of frontline combat situations. And I began to emotionally develop very quickly. Within a couple years, I surrendered to a drug habit. Methamphetamine became my drug of choice. It really, it blocked out everything, but more for me, it blocked out all the pain and allowed me to operate in a very outside of the reality that
So
I was
even
in
when
every
you
day.
got out of it, you were still like, that was a coping mechanism.
That was my
from
coping
what you
mechanism. Right.
went through.
We see this so often. I think one of the greatest myths with human trafficking is that everybody's on drugs, right? And that they get on drugs and then they get into this. And it's quite the opposite.
That's what we've always heard, yes.
Right, and that's not what we're seeing. You know, breaking the chain serves, we have an average caseload of about 152 individuals that we hold steady at, and we've served over 2,700. I'm pretty sure it's pushing into over 3,000, but I haven't done those numbers recently in the last few months. And so it's really important to understand that the majority of those victims that we're seeing, and this matches the national numbers, the average age in individuals entering into human trafficking is between 12 and 16 years old. These are not drug addicts on the street. These are children that are being targeted and exploited, right?
And even younger. There's even some younger. That's just the average that you're saying.
Right, and drugs are usually introduced to help them cope with what the individuals that are coercing them to do this or forcing them, whatever the case may be, because it's force, fraud, or coercion, to be involved so they'll be more engaging in whatever the activities. I'm sure you guys can do the math on what we're talking about. And it propels this addiction, so it becomes this cycle. Mm-hmm. Back to my point, I ended up with a really, really just dangerous drug habit. And ultimately, that drug habit led me back into exploitation to try and support my addiction. And in 2008, I found myself looking at a pretty lengthy prison sentence. I had stabbed a buyer, somebody who was attempting to assault me in that life. And by the grace of God, I didn't end up going to prison. I had a phenomenal judge who at this time was starting to be, I think, somewhat educated about human trafficking, pretty much instructed my public defender to go defend me, do his job. And I ended up with a county year. I have a story of faith. So for me, it was during that time that I found Jesus. Right, I found Jesus Christ. I gave my life to God, and that should have been the end of the story, but it wasn't. I got out of jail, and although for me personally, things became a lot better very quickly. I was connected, which I think is really important when we talk about recovery. For me, the recovery was in the church. Recovery can look different, and I want to make sure that's important, and I believe that for everybody, right? NAAA, support groups, grief groups, trauma groups, these types of things. For me, it was the church. And so having a community of people that I could begin to process my feelings, who were there for me, who were checking on me, became my lifeline. And very shortly after that, I went to a women's conference with a group of women from the church that I was attending. And I walk in, and so my book starts. A lot of shameless plugs. I walk in, and there is this banner. And it is a woman dressed as we would see a stereotypical prostitute, right? Bending into a late model sports car. And the top of the banner said human trafficking. I don't remember all the other stuff that was on it, but I just remember like time froze for me. And it's like my head was wrapping around this, because in my head, forgive my language, right? I was like, that's a hoe. Like, what? Human what? Right? And needless to say, I went to that breakout session that they had. And in 1 hour, I had answers to questions I never even knew I needed to ask. And my journey began.
That's crazy. That's really amazing.
Yeah. It really was.
What was life like? Because if your mom was kind of into that, you were born into drugs, you never had a normal childhood ever. We see. What was it like growing up? I mean, that's what kind of baffles me.
That's the great part. That's, I think, again, going back to you got to get the book, is right after I was born, because I was born addicted to narcotics, my biological father stepped into the scene. And so I actually was whisked away to go live with my biological father and his family. And my mother was in and out of my life. She was in and out of prison and a bunch of other stuff my entire life. So I was exposed to some really horrible things growing up. Things happened always at her hand and
so
in her
you
care.
You saw what healthy looked like.
But I seen what healthy looked like. That's right. So I had on this other side. I mean, we were poor, right? We lived, like I said, Southwest Fresno. My family had a tow company, so we had a tow yard over off of North and Elm. And but I had a very loving family. I had a grandmother who was God-fearing, hence me finding Jesus. So I was in church a lot. I was told I was loved and I was beautiful, and I really feel like that was foundational to me being able to be where I'm at today, right? The fact that exactly what you said is I had a split screen. I had something to look back to despite the trauma. And that's where I gravitated ultimately back to. So yeah, and Breaking the Chains. So I go to that conference. Breaking the Chains is birthed. I mean, that's the short end of the story. Is I really have to say it was a God thing. Right? It really, really was for me.
Your chains were broken at that point.
I mean, not to be cliche, but it was. I wish I could say, I went and did this, and I was strategic, and I mapped out this, and I'm still in awe to this day. The officer that rescued me, we were able to reconnect. He was instrumental, along with another local leader, Tom Summers, with connecting me with our, at that time, police chief, Jerry Dyer. He kind of marched in with this officer, and Fresno PD have become my big brothers. I love them. I love you, Fresno PD, with all my heart and soul. You know that.
They must have loved the transformation in you. They must have been shocked.
They're my family. They're my big brothers and sisters. I don't care. Cool. There's like notes talking smack about them to me because they really did, specifically our now mayor. And so I was able to have that door open by the grace of God. And that door that opened just led to so much more. And again, as soon as this door opened, there were still so many people waiting. And I know that one of the big issues that we seen at that time was law enforcement was now beginning to crack down, conduct these big operations. They were doing stop and talks. They were getting it, or beginning to get it, right? But where did they have to send these girls? I mean, you can stop and talk to girls, you can rescue them, but where are you rescuing them to? Breaking the Chains was born. And so now we operate a pretty comprehensive, we have emergency shelters, we have, multiple homes, we have a youth center. We pretty much, like I said, provide a majority of the comprehensive care.
Do you ever have to send people away because there's no room?
Not yet. We have, and I will tell you this, shameless plug, we are needing to expand. We're always needing more.
Yeah.
We follow the model of the mission. We they also big brothered and championed us. We love the Fresno mission, so they've been a strong partner of ours since day one. And so there's times that we've had to put, cots out. Right, because we're not going to tell someone no. If I don't have a bed, there's no way I'm going to leave someone stuck in that situation.
Have you brought people home?
No, I haven't brought people home, which leads to the second part of my story that just more recently occurred. Thankfully, yes, I lied. Yes, I did bring people home, and I think that that's not a good idea.
And I've heard that too. That could be,
Boundaries are very, very, very important.
And I get that. And I bet that's hard too.
Yeah. There is. I mean, it's good and bad. I have a sister that essentially was our very first survivor, and she is probably one of the closest people to me. I love her with all my heart. She is more than flesh and blood to me, and that is my sister Ariane, which she doesn't have a problem me saying that. And so there are stories like that are just absolutely amazing and incredible. And then there's other sides where you're just like, but I learned that very early on, so that's not something that happened too much, where you're like, there has to be a separation between my personal life and my work life. But we do have the facilities, and we do have beautiful facilities thanks to our generous supporters, so thank you guys so much. But yeah, I mean, again, cots aren't a permanent solution, but at times, right, if we're getting that 2 o'clock in the morning call and we won't be able to figure things out until the next morning because all of our shelter beds are full, then we pull out that cot. But by the next evening, they're on the journey to their best life.
And how did you get, I mean, it doesn't seem like you had many life skills of organizing, being the head of something like this. You know what I mean? So how did you learn, hey, I'm going to do this and delegate this and that? And because it's really successful right now.
It is.
How did it get to that point from you coming off the street, not knowing anything, to now being able to have a successful?
It's going to go back to what I said. It's all God, right?
It's all God?
So, and it really is. It feels like there was this intuition and there was moves that were being made prior to me even realizing where we were to be. So when I first got a job, I went to school.
Okay.
And so I knew that I wanted to work in some sort of social work. I thought I wanted, which I guess I am working with children then. So I was thinking CPS. I was thinking something of that nature. I had went to dental school, wasn't really happy with it, completed it, but didn't really feel like my thing. And so I got into human services. And so human services was pivotal in me understanding everything from Maslow's hierarchy of need to really having to provide that direct care. And then the next part of that, again, more God, more is the mission, where we were born from, where we were birthed from, is I had this plan. And I was working it with our co-founder, Tiffany Apodaca, and we were putting these plans together. And I went to look for a job that was in a similar field. And the very first interview I got was with the Fresno Rescue Mission. And I love her to death. She is a mentor to me to this day. But the director there, Priscilla Robbins, and at that time, Debra Torres, they just really fell in love with the idea of breaking the chains and gave me an extraordinary paid internship opportunity for me to work there in a 2-year position. And I was able to just really shadow and learn everything about having a women's program, followed behind, and just day and night was just mesmerized by what was happening at the Fresno Mission.
So you took what you wanted from them, and then like, I'm going to apply this and this, and then do this differently, and then wow, that's really cool.
And it's not all me. You know, we have a co-founder, Tiffany Apodaca. She has extraordinary experience as a catering manager, so she had that HR. It was all just perfect. So she came in alongside. She had the event experience, the HR experience. She understood how payroll and all these different things will work with having to operate a team, and so it was together.
Well, that's what I'm saying. There's just like so many things to like learn, and it's like you guys, you brought the right
team. Alone.
Yeah,
you can't do it alone. So I brought in the programming piece, right, overseeing all of our programs and things like that, and she brought in that HR and that fundraising piece, and Breaking the Chains was birthed.
That is so remarkable. And then now you're married. So tell us about your life now. Fast forward to how things are progressing.
I'm going to joke. And so anybody who gets offended right now, just shut it off, right? I feel like I tell people I literally got scars on my body that I could say what I'm going to say next. But you've heard the term, you can't turn a hoe into a housewife, right?
Yeah.
I'm a pastor's wife. Right?
That is awesome.
So I'm like one of the most handsome, awesome, hottest pastors in town.
But they turned it. It happened. You could turn.
Remember, I still got a little hood in me, so don't come for him. But all jokes aside, but just more just faith.
So how did you guys meet?
He was my pastor.
He was your pastor?
Yeah, he was my pastor. He was my senior pastor, and things just worked out. You know, he was single, and he had a little bit of a crush on me. We go back and forth. He said I had the crush first, but I think it was him.
Well, and then so he was with you kind of when you started this journey, or like before Breaking the Chains?
Yes, he was. Yes, I've known him since we started Breaking the Chains. Mm-hmm. Yep.
That's remarkable.
Yep.
And then how is it like to be a mom and everything at this point?
Oh my goodness, it's incredible. Together we have 7 kids. I have 4 biological. He has 3, and that's
the Brady Bunch.
Yeah, that's the hard part. Is which I guess is the second part of that story where we're at today. Is that my 4 children came along a very hard journey for me. 3 of them were born in my addiction, or one came. So I had.
How like you were born pretty much. The repeated cycle.
Right. So my son, again, amazing. You know, he's Air Force, just came over here from Langley, works on stealth technology. He's absolutely amazing, really incredible human being. I had him just after my 16th birthday. And so he's grown up with me, and that was right before I was taken. And then I came out of trafficking with a second child. I had been taken to a labor camp, and so obviously I don't like to go into details. And when I was rescued, I was pregnant. And so she's amazing. She works for the U.S. Navy, and I can't give her I'm not allowed to give her locations up, but just super proud of her.
So glad you got to keep her too.
You know, people talk about, and again, I'm not judging anybody's choice.
Some people lose their children.
Right. Some people, or they choose to abort. Like, I'm not one that gets into that. Like, even though I'm a person of faith, I don't get into all that, because you know what, you have to do what's right for you.
Right.
You cannot judge somebody's trauma. For me personally, because whenever I was rescued, I was so disconnected from the situation, I moved past a point of being able to make that decision. And so I was looking at adoption. I really thought when I had her that, I was going to, obviously, I was detached during my pregnancy, like how it's the child of rape, like how is this going to work?
Right.
Not even just rape, like severe trauma. And I'm telling you, angelic. Like, I gave birth to her at Mercy San Juan Hospital in Sacramento, where I had been relocated for my own safety. And I mean, lights low, candles lit. I don't even know why the nurses did. It was just amazing. And I'm telling you, from the moment that baby laid in my arms, she has not done anything other than bless my life. And I have told her many times, and we'll say it again, I would walk through that fire 100,000 more times if I knew she was waiting on the other side of that.
That's really incredible.
Yeah, she's amazing. And then, but then unfortunately in my addiction, which just really goes to an educational piece, is I would give birth to 2 more. My Jules and my Kendra. And what they went through with a drug addicted mother was really bad. You know, it was bad. It was bad. They spent, you know, they were 5 and under, and what they went through was terrible. Terrible, terrible. I was a raging drug addict. And so a lot of early childhood trauma. Both of them had prenatal and post, you know, natal exposure. And so they struggled. On March 21st of last year, Kendra was shot and killed in Los Angeles by the same traffickers that I fight against. And so it's been, when you say it's been, the up and down, the story, I feel like has only just begun. You know?
So did you raise those 2 kids, or so you raised all 4 children?
Yeah. Well, and that's where we look at it. Is my first 2, my son I did not raise. I will not take credit. I will give that to my amazing father.
Because he had to while you were.
Yep.
Okay. I was trying to connect dots.
Yeah,
now
connect those dots
okay.
and get the book. Yeah. So my dad, absolutely amazing, was there from when my son took his first breath. And yes, my son was primarily with my father until he was 12 years old. Whenever I get out after, you know, getting all my life together.
We're going to read that book, by the way.
Yes. And then my daughter, the one that I brought out with me, I pretty much raised her, but she also had a lot of interaction with my father and my family. They really did, you know, step in to help me a lot with her as well, even though she was always with me. So she spent a lot of weekends and after school and that type of stuff. But by the time that my addiction kicked in and I had my other 2, it was just too much for my dad, you know.
Right, that makes sense.
We understand. I understand now. Nobody understood then, or we didn't understand, but how drug exposure can affect, you know, young children. So they both had didn't get diagnosed till later, but you know, ADHD. They had a lot of problems with impulse control, behavior control, a lot of that stuff that comes from, you know, prenatal drug exposure and trauma. And so they were handfuls. They were very difficult. And again, there's already 4 kids. He's like, I'm already trying to help with these 2. So I think they were just exposed to a lot more. And so they struggled as teens, even though I had, you know, I got out of that life when they were still young. You know, they don't even remember. Those 2 don't even really. My Jules, she remembers bits and pieces, but nothing really, you know. But the evidence of what they had experienced is something that's still a ramification in their lives. And unfortunately, both of their biological fathers were active gang members who were known pimps, and that I was unable to protect them from that exposure because they're their biological fathers. They still
and they
had rights.
wanted to be in their lives?
When it was convenient.
Yeah, okay.
Right? When it was convenient. So there's a lot of contributing factors. And then again, this just happened in March. And so
not even a year.
Right. There's not a lot I can talk about. We do have we have the weapon in jail. I don't think it's the murderer. It was another child. It was a 14-year-old child that took her life under the direction of a gang member. And so not a lot I can comment on in that right now. It's still really fresh. We still got a lot going on.
That's fine. I don't want you to say anything you're not supposed to say, but that's heartbreaking. And was it as a retaliation against you?
There's not a lot I can comment on right now.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to give a joke.
There's a lot of open investigations.
That's the sequel. That's the second book.
That's the sequel.
And then when all that's settled and you can do that, we will await that when you can talk about that.
And I do firmly believe that the 14-year-old, not of my daughter, she had no provocation. I can't say she didn't know my daughter at all. She was simply following orders, but she's a victim too. So I'm really sensitive about that. I attend her court hearings. I'm praying for her.
Wow.
I believe she's a victim, probably on a much deeper level than my daughter. And even though my daughter's life was taken, and so I'm an advocate for her. So I also want to respect that space for that child and not speak too much into that until we, I hope that one day we're able to pull enough strings together that the people who actually are responsible for this are held accountable.
Oh my goodness. Do you think that tragedy added another layer of people kind of hearing about breaking the change and being more involved in helping breaking the change? You know, like one tragedy kind of like spurs something else.
Yeah, I've started a second nonprofit called Kendra's Cause.
All right.
Yeah. So Kendra's Cause expands from human trafficking. So Kendra's Cause is a 501c3, so you can look that up. I don't do a lot of public promotion of it right now because it's more government funded. So I'm working a lot with law enforcement agencies, county agencies to provide educational support and direction. And so the focus of Kendra's Cause, which is under culmination, I mean, it's its official organization now, is to really understand gun violence, systemic vulnerabilities within these crime-impacted communities, children who have been impacted like mine, and not just reduce instances of human trafficking, but also reduce instances of gang involvement. Again, there's this whole question about, do we in prison? Do we not in prison? Do we, reformative justice? And I think all of these conversations are great conversations, but the fact of the matter is we need to get upstream. And that's what Kendra's Cause wants to do. We have 3 phases within Kendra's Cause that we are developing right now that are really amazing. And it's talking about that, first 5, which is really, really important. Understanding that there's foundational resiliency skills that are built within children in those ages that are hardwiring for them to be able to process just life, right? We're going to lose dogs, parents are going to get divorced, you're going to lose your best friend, you're going to get bullied, yada, 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 right? Mm-hmm. And so having those core resiliency skills are really important. So we focus on that. And then we move into phase 2, which is that 5 to 12. And that 5 to 12-year-old age range, we don't talk a lot about. And that's where children are still really open if stuff has happened or is occurring to have conversations. And so those parents out there that are in that age range will understand, like, this is the time to talk to your children. We're scared to talk to them, but that 5 to 12 is where they're willing to engage. I missed that gate with Kendra and Juliana. Okay. Right? I was not aware.
That makes sense.
So during, when I got out, I figured it was done. Right? I got them out. I moved to a better neighborhood. We're going to church. Mom's an advocate. I'm a badass. Let's do this. We're baking cookies. I'm telling them I love them. I'm reading the books every night. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm doing everything I need to do. We're past this. But it was that 5 to 12 when I look back is when we should have been talking about what occurred pre-5. We should have been addressing them. Maybe not talking about it, but that's where the interactions, that's where the therapy, that's where the stuff should have happened, because that's when children are willing to engage. Then after between 12, if we miss that mark, so that's why there's 3 chances I tell people, right? Let's say you miss it. Because at 12, you're going to start, and those now with above 12 are going to know what I'm talking about, you start missing out on the opportunity to engage. Because at 12 is when a shutdown occurs. This is when, like, oh my God, Mom, that's so stupid. I don't want to hear this. In most cases, you're not the smartest person in the room anymore. Because you're fighting their frontal lobe that is trying to engage.
And you're being challenged.
Right. Okay, and so we lose that opportunity. But that doesn't mean that the fight's over. You have that 12 to almost 25 where intervention really, you lessen the likelihood of being able to intervene the further you get down the line. Mm-hmm. But there are so many opportunities to really get in front of this, and teens and technology courses, having conversations, making sure that we're aware of who they're around, what they're engaging in. Are we understanding red flags? Are we dismissing isolation and identity issues as, just normal teenage behavior? I cannot count how many parents have been in my shoes and have sat with me and they're like, I just thought that this was just, normal teenage behavior. It's
hard to know the difference.
Right? It's hard. There's not a difference, though. Wow. There's not a difference. We have got that wrong for years, right? We have got that wrong. I cannot tell people in the day and age that we live. I mean, people say, well, I have to respect their privacy. No, you don't. Stop it. Stop it. You have to understand that our children, everything from Reddit to Roblox to Fortnite, not just social media, basically any internet platform that is out there where you can have some sort of person-to-person engagement, messaging on any level becomes a platform for destruction if it's not used appropriately. We tell people all the time, I tell people, don't remove devices. You're crazy. If you remove devices from your children, you handicap them. I did that. You handicap them. We need to follow the same principles that we followed back whenever we were younger, right? Stranger danger, right? You were taught from a very young age. I have a grandchild. He's my whole world right now. He's going to be 2 here within the month. And we're already like pushing him around a cart, and he's like, hi, hi, hi. And that's cute that he's hi. But when someone starts, speaking back to him, we're already redirecting him. I'm already trying to make him aware. This is natural, a difference between strangers and who you can trust. But we need to do that online. And I think that we have a generation of parents, and that's changing very quickly, thankfully, that are not as comfortable with technology, who may not understand, and who may be inadvertently reinforcing these false belief systems that because it's happening online and my child's sitting right in front of me, they're safe. And we have to understand, I'll kind of wrap with this, is we also have to understand that, again, age difference. I'm not trying to age you. I'm 45. I don't mind saying that.
We're close.
But when I was in school, right? When something happened, my biggest fear was that 35 people, maybe 70 people would, and that could be the most embarrassing thing in the world, would find out about it. But one summer break and it was done. It was forgotten.
And now it's forever.
And now it's forever, and it's on there, and it's never going away, and people are talking about it on every platform. And then guess what? It's not 30 people that knows. It's 3,000 people at every school. Right? It's viral videos. It's cyberbullying. It's beyond that. It's our children are staring at screens and they are comparing themselves to unrealistic expectations.
Now we have AI, and now we're really comparing ourselves to unrealistic everything.
Everything. I had someone say at a training that I was in, it was very profound, and he said, parents need to understand. By the time your child is 10 years old, not even 12, so by the time they're 10 years old, okay, the school and their peers are getting at least 8 hours of their time. Yeah. Undivided attention, peers especially, right? And this is what is being inundated. You are lucky if you are getting 10 or 15 minutes at the table and you lose that, and I forget the algorithm he put out, but it was like 2 minutes every 2 years, to where you're lucky by the time they're 14, 15 years old, if you're getting a 5 minute like zoned in healthy conversation with them between the highs and buys and gotta go, even if you're sitting at a dinner table, right? And so we have to understand what they're being inundated with. And so I think it's just really important that, again, we don't remove these things, we don't become fearful of them, but we understand things like Bark phones is putting on parental restrictions. iOS has a phenomenal screen time application that can be set up on any child's phone. So, if you don't want to do a Bark phone, do an Apple phone. I'm not trying to be a proponent for Apple. I know, sorry, Android users, maybe you have some good stuff on there, but Apple has really solidified that parental screen time.
That's really good.
And you know what? Investing time in our children. And the second part of that is the false expectation that, home, this needs to be taken care of at home, right? Yeah, it should be. In an ideal world, all the parents out there would be doing this. But we don't live in one. So guess what? Teachers, neighbors, big sisters, aunties, you need to lean into these children and really make sure that we are helping to direct them. Because if you don't, I promise you somebody else is.
How can we help you as a community? Besides, we're going to buy your book. And then when you guys have stuff in town, how do we follow? How do we figure all this out? Where we should go to? How we can give money, donate, all of that.
So easy. Go to btcfresno.org. So that's the acronym for Breaking the Chains, right? btcfresno.org. You can scroll to the bottom to all of our different social media links. Follow us on our social media pages. You'll always know what's going on.
Breaking the Chains everywhere, pretty much. If you want to go to Instagram, TikTok, right?
Right. We're everywhere. No TikTok, but we're everywhere. Okay. I don't know if anybody can get TikTok.
Instagram, Facebook, whatever. So you can also just look it up on each.
Right. Okay. You can go to LinkedIn. You could go to Instagram. You can go to, I know there's more on, there's X. You can go to Facebook.
What's coming up? What's the next big event that you guys are at or hosting?
So we are so excited. May 9th. And this is the first time I'm saying this on TV. Yay. So they're so, ABC's Their Neighbors going to be so jealous. So you get this right now.
ABC.
Elizabeth Smart. Do you remember Elizabeth Smart?
Yes.
Elizabeth Smart has become a credible ally ally to us, and especially throughout the anti-human trafficking movement.
Great.
And she will be here May 9th. And so she's going to be sharing some very intricate details of her story. If you don't know, go Google it. Amazing, amazing, amazing story of resilience.
So where is that event going to be held?
That's going to be a luncheon from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. with a private meeting with her from 1 to 1:30, and then she'll be speaking, of course, throughout the event, and it's going to be at the Golden Palace. So come out. There's going to be lots of...
I think she's great. She's incredible.
Oh, my goodness.
I love her.
And it's an opportunity to come meet so many different local leaders. We are so well supported, you know, and come out and just find out what's happening with Breaking the Chains and how you can get involved.
So if we pay for the luncheon, that also goes to you guys. That supports.
Yes, 100% of the proceeds come back to Breaking the Chains.
That is so awesome. That's really cool. Thank you so much for coming on my show today.
Absolutely.
And we're all going to buy that book.
Yes. A Cry of the Heart, Debra Rush. Get it on Amazon. Go get it. Bring it to me. I'll sign it.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate you, friend.
Thanks for coming on the show today.
Pleasure's mine. Thanks for having me.
So you come back, forth. You move around all the time. Tell us what your journey's been like over the past few years.
Well, my journey's been somewhat eclectic. It's been a lot of different things. I suppose you could consider it my journey in pursuing the things that I'm passionate about, whilst simultaneously just further my education, pursue my goals and my passions, grow as an individual, and then all the derailing along the way, and then getting back up, you know.
So, what is your passion?
Ooh, that's a loaded question. Well, to talk about my passions, I probably have to differentiate between interests and passions, because those are not quite the same. I take a lot of interest and likings to different things, like you know some of them. Obviously, you know my past with bodybuilding, 14 years of wrestling, for just the acquisition of knowledge, I suppose you could say. But what I'm currently working on now, I've been still in the acting game a little bit. I'm not doing that quite as much these days. Finishing up my education, some prerequisites.
You're working on being a doctor, right? Getting a doctorate. That's impressive.
That is.
It's a lot of work.
It's not very linear, so to speak, though. It's
everybody I know who's done that hasn't been linear for them either. They usually go back and forth, and then it's.
That's comforting to hear. So, yeah, I've been on that journey and have some other prospects that I'm working on right now. I'm just finished filming a project not that long ago, also in terms of the acting realm of things. That's been more of a passion of mine that I continue onward in spite of everything else that I have going on. It's my creative outlet, so to speak, as well as writing.
Wow, and then you did dabble in the news when you were in New York. Were you studying in New York as well, or you just went there to work?
I went there to work. I was working just for a very short period of time at WETM 18. It's a Next Star news station. They own KC24 as well. So,
what did you learn through that experience?
Well, it was different because I grew up obviously with my father always being in the news.
Our viewers, you want to tell our viewers?
Yes, Monty Torres, KMPH, Fox 26. And growing up seeing it, so that was my entire life. It wasn't much of a shock to me, but doing it day in, day out, I did learn a lot about the just the technicalities, what it's like on a daily basis to do the interviews, do my stand-ups, do my live shots, do pitch news stories, write, compile everything that I needed to. So it was different. It was a great experience, and I'm glad that I took the opportunity. But I felt like I was putting a lot of my other goals and aspirations off, and just kind of leaving a lot of loose ends untied.
Did you feel like it helped you with your acting at all as a creative actor? But did it?
Yeah, it actually made me a lot more aware of elocution. Actually, my father and I, we talk about this a lot. Alan Rickman is actually very well known for his elocution. He played Professor Snape, and yeah, exactly.
I'm old enough to know that.
Exactly. So, helped me focus a lot on that, my diction. But in terms of acting, it's a little different. Right.
I know it's very different, but then I know that there are elements of it. And just even like doing this show, there are things you take where it's like that helps you a little bit.
Yeah.
Learn camera that you weren't even aware of. Like
certainly, yeah. You definitely have to be on and energetic and engage with the audience. So
you did that, and you're like, hey, this isn't when you came back to Fresno. Where else did you move? I knew you moved around a couple times.
Yes, I was in Los Angeles for a little while too, back in my younger years when I was just wide-eyed and bushy-tailed. So did a little bit of acting when I was there. Worked in social media marketing for this company. It was a startup AI company called Politis, and just moved back to Central Valley. It's kind of tends to always kind of bring you back a little bit here.
Right. Well, it's a good home base. I mean, you have family here and everything.
Lots of family.
And your sister too. She's kind of in the business. Doesn't she sing and act? Or?
Yes. Yeah, she does. Actually, all my sisters sing, and Avonlea is who you're speaking of. She's done a lot of work here as well, acting, commercial work.
You guys were just all born for that. I love it.
Well, I mean,
started with your dad, and then it all came. You guys all have the genes.
Yeah, it's fun. So
what now? Right now, what are you working on your doctorate for?
Naturopathic medicine is the goal. That's something I've always been very passionate about. Don't get me started on my aversion to petroleum-based pharmaceutical companies, Western medicine. There's a time and a place for it, but I believe in addressing the underlying cause and the issue of any pathology before going into something more invasive or taking a pharmaceutical drug.
Just, the people just push a bunch of pills on us whenever we have a problem.
Pill popping.
Yeah, and too, for me in the bodybuilding world, about taking a natural approach to looking good. I think a lot of people, don't have that insight that are even studying that. So that's pretty cool. You have that background as well.
I did have that as a foundational base, thanks to my upbringing. But even since I was in the bodybuilding world, a lot of growth, a lot more acquisition of knowledge, and just with simple things, even with sports supplements, and how they vary from natural supplements as opposed to, say, something so simple as like the artificial sweeteners, acesulfame, sucralose, aspartame, and then the natural counterparts like stevia or monk fruit or...
Don't make fun of my aspartame back here.
There we go. That's just so everyone can see. Dr. Pepper.
I'm like the poster child for aspartame.
What does it have? Does it actually have aspartame in this? It does.
It does.
That is the fourth ingredient.
At least I do know what I'm putting in my body. Do I condone it? Do I not?
Yeah, at least have the knowledge.
Yeah, I have the knowledge of it. But no, I mean, it's crazy. I think that, we don't realize, and I've done, people say, what do you take to get, your pre-workout, whatever. I'm like coffee or like that. So I'm taking a drug that's bad, but I've taken things where my heart's just like, I'm getting itchy everywhere. And these are things that are on the market. I'm just like, so I'm really scared about, so even though I am taking a bad drug, it's better than a lot of the other things that were thrown at me that I should take before a workout,
Yeah, I mean, the funny thing about that too is I learned this when I was working actually back at Valley Fitness and Nutrition. I competed with them when I was doing the bodybuilding competitions. They would have certain supplements that were on the market, and then they would be banned eventually at some point.
Right.
And then I think the same company would come back out with the same product, just a slight little change to like the compound.
Oh gosh, right.
And it's the same thing.
The little like whatever the law, that little tweak, and that you get around things.
Exactly.
Wow.
So detrimental.
So what do you hope to do with all of this? I know you have so many big plans and you're doing so many cool things. What would be the one of the end goals or some of the end goals for this?
Well, not to sound cliche, but obviously the destination is important, but I believe the journey along the way, that's something I want to share. And I've already traversed much of that journey, and I know I have a lot more traversing to do, if that makes sense.
Right.
So I would like to share my journey and any of the derailings that have happened. Like to be entirely forthcoming, I had an issue with alcohol for a while. And that's something that I've somewhat recently finally have under wraps, and I'm sober now. So that's good. And I know it's so counterintuitive, huh? It's like the juxtaposition between drinking alcohol, but I'm like naturopathic medicine.
Well,
like
it's
health.
kind of good actually because you have that insight to it. I think it's actually good to have, you know what I mean? We're just purely eating pure your whole life. It's like, hey, well, I've seen what happens when I do this. It's derailing. It's like, you know.
Well, and having lived it too.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. That's what I was saying. You kind of, now you really understand it fully because you've been there.
Yeah, and can relate now on a much deeper level.
Yeah,
so,
for sure.
Yeah, I used to have a speech impediment, so I couldn't say my R's. So every now and then it will come out.
Well, wow, being on the news system really helped doing that.
yeah, you could say. So.
Wow. Okay, so that's really interesting, though.
Yeah. No, it's been quite fun, and now I'm currently in a season of my life where potentially we'll be moving out of the country now and just pursuing the doctorates as well. A lot of spiritual growth also.
What country are you thinking of going to?
That is confidential for the time being.
Oh, okay. Well, we'll have to follow you.
Sorry.
So where do we follow you and see what your journey is and what's going on? Are you good about posting stuff like that or not really?
I am when they actually happen because I don't consider a thing until it actually is a thing.
That's the truth of the matter. That's how it is. Yeah.
I mean, in layman's terms. So.
Right.
But that being said, yeah, I am on Instagram under Lancelot, but the A is not an A, it's a V because somebody took the handle a long time ago and they haven't posted since like 2013, I guess. Happens. And I'm on Facebook as well, Lancelot Manibog, Lance Manibog, and barely use TikTok, but I use it, so.
Awesome. So no journeys you're going to let us know about right now?
Journey.
Next one?
Let me see. I have to sift through those in my mind to see if there's any I could come up with. Give me a prompt. Give me a cue.
Where's the next place on your list that you're going to travel to this year that you know of?
Marshall Islands.
Oh, nice. What's happening over there?
Just some business opportunities.
That's really cool. And so when you're on doing your doctorate right now, are you working online mostly?
Yes, that's actually something I'm figuring out because this semester I enrolled at Fresno State, but I'm probably going to have to drop out of those classes and enroll online so I could maintain my life-work balance.
Going everywhere that you need to go?
Yeah, otherwise I'll be kind of, geographically locked here.
So. And then you're acting and modeling. Where do we get in touch if somebody wants to hire you for one of those, for something?
You guys could reach out to me on social media. Yeah, Facebook, Instagram, probably going to be the best ones for me.
Anything recently that came out or coming out recently we could see?
I do have a film that I recently finished shooting. It's in post-production currently. I believe they're working on the sound composition for it, called Muscle Dragger. It takes place in like the 70s. It's just those American muscle cars, and it's I don't know, should I give the premise away? Maybe not, just to be safe, but they're working on it, and when it comes out I will certainly be posting.
Right on. We'll keep a lookout for you. Thank you so much for coming on my show. It was so great to finally have you on.
Thank you. The pleasure's mine.
Thank you for coming on my show today.
Thank you for the invitation. Thank you to everyone, your audience right here. It's a pleasure to meet you. I know you have a great program right here, and I'm here to tell about my business and tell about my community.
Well, I'm very excited because, as you know, I'm in fitness too, so I love the passion. So what got you started into fitness?
You know, my life it has been with moves. So I come from Mexico. I come from a little town. And that little town, I always running, I always jumping, because it was very hard to move with car, only with horses or with animals. So the best thing to move to this place to the other places was running or walking faster. So that's why I think that's my life all the time. It's been move.
You lived it.
And I love it. You know,
so you didn't have gyms growing up, right?
Yeah. I'm growing up. My gym, I call it Strong Family Fitness. I call this name because I think the families has the power of the life. If you have a child overweight or obese, if you have sisters and they don't want to go to the gym by themselves because they don't have motivation, but they find the motivation in the family, all the family can be involved into the fitness moves. So that's why I call my gym Strong Family Fitness. I've been running this place for 5 years. Comes couples, mom, dad, sisters, all the families are involved into my gym. This gym is boot camp. It's advanced training also, and there is a lot of programs for the people who wants to enjoy into my gym, especially for my community. I've been work for many times in the boot camps in different places, and I realized that my Hispanic people, they don't have a specific place for them, because all the gyms comes the fitness people already, they know the form, they already know everything about the gym, they bring all the program, and they know how to use the machines. But for my community, who always are working, and they don't know anything about it.
That's a good point. You're right. I mean, and it's true. Even there's newer machines too. Like, we don't know everything. It's like some of this stuff is really complicated, especially like my mom's age. There's all these ages, and so it's like, you know, there needs to be something just to teach the basics.
Exactly. The basics are the more important, because it's why the people are motivated to go to the gym, because they don't know to do anything. Just go to the gym and use the running machine and bicycles, and that's it. Only they focus on the cardio, because they don't know how to.
Else.
Yes, and that is why I transformed this place into the Hispanic bootcamp fitness, Strong Family Fitness, because all the families comes and we show the basic form, we show how to strengthen the body, we show them how they work entire body with their own weight. So that's why, and all my people, all my Hispanic people, we speak English, we speak Spanish, and all the community is always together, because we treat the people as family, because we are family. We support each other. If I have some women, they don't show up a week, and I call, what happened? Are you okay? Yes, it's because I'm getting sick. Okay, I hope you get better and come back very soon, because we miss you. So we treat that people as our family, because that's the only way that you can get more and more motivation.
That's impressive, because you're probably training people that's never worked out in their whole life, huh?
Exactly. That's the beginners. That's the beginners. So
wow.
Yeah, I've been transform a lot of people mentally, physical, and healthy lives. That's why I love to do this job. I love to help the people. I love how the people come and tell me, Patty, thank you very much. I went to the doctor and said that my cholesterol goes down. And, you know, I feel more energetic. I feel more, my autoesteem is going up. So those words, it's amazing to feel it and see you're doing something good in this life.
So what was it like starting this business? How did you get the word out to your community that there's somebody for them?
7 years ago, I used to be a Zumba instructor because I love dance. Actually, I have another a side business which is for teenagers. I focus for the teenagers who knows dance, and we teach how they dance much better.
Love
they
that.
They perform in events in Hispanic community. There is a special 15 years girls. They do for quinceañeras. I don't know if you know something about it, but they have chambelanes. The chambelanes is the guys who dance with the quinceañera, the maid dance. So I have the chambelanes. So the quinceañeras come and get the package with chambelanes.
Oh, then they know what to do.
Yeah, they
I
know
love
what
that.
to do. So I ran for this business 16 years ago. I'm starting here in the Central Valley. So this is another side. So I'm started to do Zumba instructor like 9 years ago. But as always, I love to move. And then I said, why am I not move to the other step? I want to be a personal trainer. And I started with NPC, bodybuilding on the stage. So I love it. I love it how the body changing if you work correctly, if you diet, it's a perfect, the body is changing and
Right.
yeah. And so that's why I said, I can do this for my community. I can help them to get there because all of us, we dreaming to have a nice body, right? Especially us, the women loves to have a super shape body. So I said, I can do that. But I have to start from the beginners because the beginners, they get more motivation to increase the knowledge of the fitness.
So how do you have your own spot? How did that come about?
When I started the Zumba, I opened in my first studio, my dance studio. So I started right there, but it wasn't like a Zumba dance. I involved fitness. I involved a lot of fitness workouts. So after that, I realized that the people follow me too much. I have like 60, 80 people in my studio or working outside on the parking lot. So I realized that, oh my God, the people is following me. So I have to open a big place.
That's
because
awesome.
Yeah, because outside it's cold sometimes and sometimes it's super hot. So I had to open it another place. So that's why I opened it the biggest place that right now I'm running it. So
what's the location?
It's 3219 East Shields. It's on corner Shields and First.
Shields and First.
Yeah,
Okay,
Shields and First
from
on
here.
the Target Shopping Center.
Wow.
Yeah, and you're gonna see the big site. It's called Strong Family Fitness.
Strong Family Fitness. So where can we call you and get in on the fun?
Yeah. So my phone number is 559-803-5337. Or you can find us on social media. We have Facebook as Strong Family Fitness, or Bookcamp Strong Family Fitness, Instagram, same, Strong Family Fitness, TikTok. Back again.
You're the only Strong Family Fitness? I love that.
Yeah, only Strong Family Fitness.
I love that.
Yeah, or if you want to follow me as a coach, it's Patty SFF. So Patty is Strong Family Fitness.
I love that. And then, are you the only instructor there? Or do you have other?
No. We are four. We are four of the trainers.
I imagine you're so big now. You had to have more people.
Yeah, we have more people, and also we're running Zumba classes there too. So we have Zumba classes, advanced training for those people who already have the form. So they only want to increase muscle and be more the body on shape. So we have that program too. We have a gluteal camp, so especially for increase the muscle.
I need the butts. We're all about the butts. Us lady ones.
Yeah, exactly. And Zumba. We're running Zumba classes also for the very, very beginners, people who wants to start doing something.
And are you open every day, or
we opening from Monday to Thursday?
That's only the opening for okay.
That's the only days we opening because on the weekends we're running the other business with each the dances for the teenagers.
Wow. Thank you so much for coming on my show today. I love that. I love what you're doing for the community. I love that now we have a place to go. If you just speak Spanish, this is the place to go, because you'll be lost at a lot of the gyms I work at. We don't have anybody to come and help them and show them what to do. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. And that's why the reason that I opened it. When I work on another places that doing boot camp, my community close to me and say, Patty, what they say? And I start to explain everything in Spanish and say, oh, okay, I got it. So that's why I say, okay, if Fresno, if the Central Valley, there is built by a lot of Hispanic people, so why they don't have specific gym for Hispanic people?
And that's why they needed you.
That's why.
Thank you so much for coming on my show today, Patty.
Thank you very much.
Felt right in the moment, felt right in the summertime. It felt right drinking cherry wine with you. Just wanted to own it, just wanted to take the time, learn all the things that I could about you. Now it's such a mess here, oh, we are just stressed here. Used to be so easy with you. Now I must confess here, oh, I must confess, dear, don't think I'm in love with you. Winter is coming and I don't know what to do, and there's no more use in running, no more running to you. And I don't want your loving, I don't wanna be just friends, knowing all this time we were playing pretend.
It's